All right, what's up guys? Thomas Alex Norman here, and in this video, I'm gonna show you how to make awesome videos with your iPhone. Now, I think I'm gonna interrupt myself right now with some footage that I shot on the iPhone 12 Pro to really show you how I actually did a video similar to this a few years ago, but that was more centered around travel. And obviously that's not happening too much at the moment. So I wanted to make this video to show you how to capture your life, whether that's in your home or around the area that you live. And I'm curious actually, what kind of videos do you want to make with your smartphone? Leave a comment below and let me know. And whilst you're there, you may as well give this video a like. If you do, I will make an animal noise. Okay, so before we get into the behind the scenes demonstration, where you can see me actually making a video so you can see the exact process, I need to go over a few settings with you to get you set up for success. Okay, so the first thing is going to be setting the video shooting mode to 4K 24 frames per second. This is going to be our default shooting mode because it is the most cinematic of all the resolutions. 4K is going to look great even if you export in 1080p HD. 4K is just going to give you this amazing crisp image quality. So you always want to be recording in that to maximize your results. And then setting your default frame rate to 24 frames per second. This is going to give you that cinematic look. Make sure you avoid 30 frames per second because then you'll get that more kind of amateur home video style. From there, in the actual camera app, you can, if you want, have the option to change it to 4K 60 if you want to get slow-mo that you can slow down to 40–50%. So you're going to be switching between those two options throughout. 4K 24 frames per second or 4K 60 frames per second. Okay, second within the settings is that you're going to turn on the grid. This is going to enable you to see a 2x2 grid that will enable you to frame up your shots much better. I always turn this on any camera I'm using, and it's awesome that the iPhone has this option. Turn on that grid and you'll be able to frame things up much more precisely according to the rule of thirds to give your shots a solid baseline of aesthetics. And finally, and potentially controversially, we're going to turn off HDR in the video settings. HDR is basically a way that the iPhone captures a higher dynamic range, and it makes your shots look kind of strange. It captures more detail, so you get more detail in the highlights and more detail in the shadows. However, the problem with it is that once you load it onto your computer and your editing software, the shots can look slightly weird or overexposed until you color grade them. And sometimes color grading these shots can be slightly problematic if you haven't already got quite a bit of experience in color grading. So for all intents and purposes of people who just want to capture their lives and capture their memories as easy as they can, it might be a good idea to turn this off and not have half of your shots come out in HDR mode that is then a pain in the ass to color grade. So those are the settings that you want when shooting video. A couple of things to go over. We have two more things to go over before we get into the demonstration. Number one is that when we're shooting video, we always want to be touching and holding the screen on the part of the shot that we want to be in focused and exposed. This is called the AE/AF focus lock. And if you push your finger on the screen in the point that you want to be in focus and the point that you want to be exposed, it's going to lock that. The problem with a lot of phones, and the reason why some of the footage, people are going to be able to tell, oh, that looks like phone footage, it doesn't look super cinematic and awesome, is because the phone is constantly kind of searching to change focus. It's kind of the image is warping and shifting. It's constantly trying to balance the exposure, and your image is getting brighter and darker. And although it's good sometimes, you know, if we're changing environments or the sun just goes in behind the clouds, the phone is going to compensate. However, when we want to get cinematic shots, we do not want any of this automatic stuff happening. So before each shot, choose your focus point, choose the point that you want to be exposed, hold your finger there until a yellow box comes around it and it will say AE/AF lock, then press record, get your shot and move on to the next one, and repeat the process. It's getting bloody cold right now, so I'm just going to put on some extra items of clothing to keep the nipples from getting too pointy. You'd take someone's eye out with one of them. I mean, they say, you know, come to Spain. The weather's going to be nice, they say. Come to Spain, you know, it's going to be nice and hot. Okay, so now we've got the settings handled. We're just going to be going over how to hold the iPhone. In this demonstration, I'm going to be doing two things. One is showing you what a beginner would do, and through that kind of showing you what not to do. Then I'm going to be showing you getting shots like a pro just with the iPhone, and I'm going to be doing that handheld. And then finally, I'm going to be getting those same shots, but with the gimbal to give it that extra cinematic punch. So, how do you hold the iPhone if you're going handheld? Right, the important thing here is not to do this, where you're holding it this way. What will happen is that you'll get this kind of side-to-side wobble and shake that doesn't look very good. Instead, if you go from one hand underneath, it's kind of like a stable base, and then there's some duck. I don't know, like sometimes I've heard that ducks do fairly unpleasant things, so I don't know if what I just saw was going to give me a trauma, but there was some duck stuff happening. Anyway, the other hand is going to be your kind of guide. It's going to be what's going to give you that extra kind of control, but this hand underneath is going to be what gives you this ability. So we have this amazing scene in front of me here. I'll show you through my phone. So here's the amazing scene. And what would a beginner do? Exactly that. They'd see the scene in front of them, and they would just, because it's so big, they would probably just get one kind of big shaky pan, maybe showing these ducks here, the plants, maybe some of the sky, and that would be their video, that would be their shot. And instead of that, what we're going to do is we're going to break the scene down. Instead of one big panning, shaky shot, we're going to put more control and attention into each shot and break it down into a series of shots that tell the story and gives us a creative control over what the story is and what we actually want to show to our viewers. So first up, we might choose the wide lens option on the iPhone and get an establishing shot. So what I like to do with these is to go lean back slightly and just move forward, because what this does is really brings the audience into the scene. So now I've got that wide shot that is introducing us to the scene. What I'm seeing a lot now is birds flying ahead. So what I'm going to do is punch in and go on the ×2 lens, which is the telephoto lens, and I'm just going to pay attention to any birds and any details that I might get. So what we're going to be doing is pushing down on the phone screen, so making sure we have that AE/AF lock, and we're going to be getting a detail shot of these birds here. Notice what I'm doing as well. I'm moving from left to right, getting a nice stable movement, filming these birds. The next thing I noticed are these palm trees, and rather than doing what we did before of just kind of going up and filming them, I'm going to use the telephoto lens again. I'm going to readjust my position, so holding that down, locking on to the palm tree so that it's exposed correctly and they're in focus. And I'm going to do a slight spinning shot. So I'm going to come here and just spin round like that. And the wind is looking good in the trees as well. So what I might do now is go put my frame rate up to 60. It's still in 4K and 60. And all of a sudden, we can get that same shot moving around here, but in slow-mo. And we get these nice kind of slow movements of the palm leaves there. So that's going to activate our audience's senses as well. I really want to be able to put the audience in my shoes. So one of the things is this sense of this kind of light breeze that's coming through right now. It's pretty nice. So by shooting the palm trees, we can really show that we can give them this sense of what the breeze would feel like. The same with the close-up of the birds. We can put a bit of sound design on that and then give the audience the sense of what it sounds like to be here while showing the thing that is making that sound. Just getting a couple of shots here of the birds flying overhead as well. Beautiful. I'm also going to get a quick close-up of these ducks here, going from a low angle and trying to get a little bit of foreground depth. Again, pressing where I want the camera to focus. Pretty sure they're expecting some bread. Unfortunately, you're not going to get any today, mate. You want some? You want some? Okay, so let me just play that sequence to you now to show you what we've got so far. So now we're going to be using the DJI Osmo 4 as our gimbal. Now this has a ton of really awesome features. Most of them I'm not actually going to be using today. I'm just interested in how stable this can make my shots and therefore how much extra room for motion that it can offer me. So we're just going to place the phone in the gimbal like this. Super easy setup. Like this. Just to be clear, this video is not sponsored by DJI. I just happen to think that this gimbal is awesome. So we're going to power it up. Awesome. Immediately it goes to portrait mode. You just double press the M and it's going to take you onto landscape. So let's do those same shots in sequence, but with the Osmo here. It's going to allow us to get a much more cinematic kind of motion to our shot. So once we punch in, we can move in a lot faster and with more motion. So let's do this. Awesome. So that's our shot number one. Shot number two, again, might be of these ducks here. The great thing about this is that we can punch in, and even with this closer telephoto lens, we can have really nice stable footage. So just locking in here. Awesome. Another thing I'm going to do here is play with these light flares. So this is where the autofocus becomes really, really important and the auto exposure. So I can press on this area where the sky isn't going to be crazy overexposed and look all white and horrible, and instead we can get this nice blue sky with these light flares coming out from this palm tree here. So what we're going to do is do this kind of movement where we're walking side to side, and we can get these lights coming out, the sun flickering and revealing the sky there with a cheeky little lens flare too. All right, what I can also do here is set the horizon on the bottom rule of thirds using that grid that I mentioned earlier and just do a walking shot. And because we've got the gimbal, we can just keep walking and no worries. And we can get all these birds flying around, it looks awesome. Whilst doing these walking shots with the gimbal, it is important to look like you need the toilet, because if you just walk like this, you'll still be getting these slight shakes and kind of the gimbal shots, even though these gimbals are getting better and better, and this one specifically is awesome, if you walk normally and just completely relaxed, you're still going to get this kind of up and down bob movement that isn't too appealing. So you want to try and make sure you become a human gimbal, which is going to enhance even more the electronic gimbal's abilities. So you got to walk like this. Just come across this scene that looks a little bit like Jurassic Park. Fun fact actually, birds are directly descended from dinosaurs. So much that you could literally say that birds are dinosaurs. Now I realize I've just got that close-up shot of the geese there using the close-up lens. So what I can do is get a shot that I might use before then, doing the lock and using the wide lens. And this is just going to allow me to get a wider shot first that I can then cut into a close-up, which just allows a greater spatial awareness for the audience, allows them to kind of know what's going on and not feel like, oh, we're in a lake and then suddenly a big close-up of geese. It's kind of, you have a multiple wide shots that you can cut together and then get closer in the points that you want to. Okay, so now we're at a slightly different part of the park and we have this awesome statue in front of us. What I'm going to do is use the gimbal and the phone to get a well-composed shot that is moving quite a lot as well and has a lot of cinematic movement in it. So we're just going to frame up the shot right, get everything more or less where we want and start moving. So taking a few steps here, we can go a bit faster than we were before and get a shot that almost looks like we have a drone. And it's like this massive kind of epic establishing shot there. And to finish out this video, what I'm going to do is put the lens on wide and just gives us this really nice way that we can finish pointing towards the sun. The sun kind of looks like it's setting here, or at least the day's kind of coming to an end. And what we're going to do is have this nice kind of parallax movement. Is again, we're moving left to right, but also coming around. And that's a really nice way to end it with the shadows and the light there. Okay, so now we've got all that footage with the gimbal. Let's have a look at the finished product. If you want more tips and techniques on how to capture your life, including with your phone, then check out the free training that I have below. There you're going to get a ton of really valuable content that's going to help you with your filmmaking, as well as some info about my program, the Life Capture Academy, which is full of these behind-the-scenes demonstrations, as well as the A to Z that you need to know about filmmaking, getting started to be able to capture your life and your memories, whether that's from your home, in your area, or the next time, fingers crossed, you will be able to travel. It's a 6-week program that's going to take you from beginner to pro, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. I hope I don't get into the habit of cutting myself off mid-sentence in these videos, but I'm really hoping to see you next time, and until